Hi, I'm BC Claire, and this is my first YouTube theater review. I guess I'm doing these now. So I saw a play in West London, the Strand, called True West, written by Sam Shepard back in the 80s, and it was revamped by Matthew Dunster and starred Johnny Flynn and Kit Harington. Funny story before I get into the review. I was seeing it for class. I heard I was seeing a play called True West, never heard of it before, zero background knowledge. Maybe like this back alley play, great. And then I'm on the tube in London, and when you're going through the underground, there's always posters of different theaters and plays going on. And I saw this poster while I was waiting to get on the elevator, and I saw Kit Harington on it. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, he's in a play? And as someone moves their bag, it says True West at the bottom. And I'm like, I'm seeing that. So True West can be described as a postmodern black comedy. First of all, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen True West, don't know about it, you plan on seeing it at some point in your life, don't watch this video because I'm going to start spoiling things from here on out. Though with plays, it's like sometimes people don't mind being spoiled with plays. So, yes. So when the lights went out, I first thought of Fight Club, and that's not to say it's because it's the same at all. What's different about this play than Fight Club, which is what I enjoyed so much about this play, is that it truly is postmodern in the way that you don't know whether it is about dissociative identity disorder or not. You can't find a clear answer whether it is or not. It is and it isn't, and that's what it's supposed to stay. To get into some detail, to describe and summarize the play, Austin, who is played by Kit Harington in this performance, is Austin's the younger brother, and he is currently staying at his mother's house just outside of Los Angeles. This is, like I said, set in the 80s. He is a screenwriter and he's working on a screenplay. All of a sudden, his older brother, Lee, shows up, and Lee's kind of been estranged, apparently living in the desert for who knows how many years, and starts kind of invading Austin's life. He steals his golden opportunity to get his screenplay picked up, and Lee instead writes a screenplay. So basically, Lee comes in and ruins Austin's life over the course of a couple days. There's a classic theme of reversal in this play where Lee starts out as a wild, kind of uncontrollable brother, and then Austin is the responsible brother, and they completely switch roles by the end of the play. Now, when I was reading over Sam Shepard's actual script for this play, Sam Shepard's script is so detailed. It doesn't leave any room for creative freedom for the director, the actors, or anything. It is so specific to what color the costumes are and the shirts, props, stage design, everything is just so like, do not deviate from these instructions. Like in the manuscript it says that. But Matthew Dunster, who directed this performance, he did respect all of these specific details that Shepard intended for his play. But Dunster also added some twists that didn't necessarily go against Shepard's instructions, but definitely it was something he added in. And that's what made this performance so great. I haven't seen the other performances of True West with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Ethan Hawke. So I can't really compare it to those, but I can say this is not, like what Dunster did at the beginning and end of this play was not in the script. So I'm just going to focus in on those two aspects of the play and how it plays into this postmodern understanding of this play, in that you don't know whether or not Austin and Lee are the same person or not, which, like I said, I love that tension. Very postmodern. Love my generation. Now, before I get into the twists that Dunster added to this play, I think it is also important to outline Shepard. There's an interview with Shepard in the New York Times in like November 1980 or something, in terms of what this play means and all the interpretations people are coming out about it. He said, I wanted to write a play about double nature, one that wouldn't be symbolic or metaphorical or any of that stuff. Now, people have taken this statement by Shepard to mean that it's not dissociative identity disorder, whatever. But it's not what he's saying at all. He's just saying he doesn't want it to be symbolic or metaphorical for like in play theater culture, there's a lot of metaphor and symbolism towards like the political climate of the day, social order, ideologies, that kind of thing. It's not a play about that. It's more, although he is writing about the double nature in human nature, how we have these kind of two extreme sides of us. And I don't know how dissociative identity disorder was understood in the 1980s, but nonetheless, it's an interpretation not to be thrown out because it's not what the author intended, because he didn't actually say it wasn't what it is actually what he intended, and the fact that he did want the focus of the play to be about the double nature of human beings, whether that's distinctly in Lee and distinctly in Austen. They're both double natures, or the fact that they are personifications of, but that would be metaphorical. Anyway, but if it was literal, like dissociative identity disorder isn't a metaphor, it's a literal thing. So that's why it's kind of, I don't think it's a good argument to say that Shepard didn't intend it. Even if he didn't intend it, still. Also, Shepard literally used the word split personality when describing the play in this same interview. So, split personality Even in the 1980s, mental health did have this different kind of understanding and stigma to it, but the idea of split identity, especially in kind of creating an identity of yourself that's stronger, more powerful, and more confident, that is actually a concept that goes back to Hegel and Lacan and all these philosophers. It's called, I'm not going to pronounce this right, Übermensch. And it could be argued in this play we see Lee as Austen's Übermensch, triggered by the maddening effects of the Hollywood machine. So it is very interesting twist. Now, Dunster. He started out the play by having Kit Harington come out on stage 10 minutes before the show started, sit down at the table, the kitchen table in the set, and start writing. It was very confusing because people were still sitting down, getting drinks, talking. Everyone was still talking in the audience. Even as he came out, it was kind of like there was muttering and stuff, but then people just went back to talking. The play started at 7:30 and this was like 7:20 or something. And for 10 straight minutes, he's just on stage sitting there. And it did have an effect because he does have that celebrity status. I think that just kind of heightened and emphasized the effect of him being there, already assuming his role before the play started. And you see him walking around, he paces, he's clearly struggling with what he's writing. He goes over to the counter, pours himself some coffee, goes back to the table, writes some more, lights a cigarette, that kind of thing. And he's just in character. It was funny because I was sitting near the back and the person next to me was like, I don't think that's him. And I'm like, it's him. Because it was so strange. It was so strange that he was just on stage before the play started. Now, this is a move that is significant to this dilemma that Dunster and Shepard is presenting with the audience in whether or not Lee and Austen are the same person or not. So Austen's on stage. He is, it's clear he is establishing that he is the protagonist. He is completely alone. It is very clear. All the lights are on in the house. 7:30 comes and the lights start to dim and it's nighttime and he lights a candle and turns off the kitchen light and goes back to the table and continues writing by the candlelight. And then the moonlight through the kitchen window, gets brighter, and you notice there's a silhouette in the kitchen now, and that is Lee, Johnny Flynn. And he says something to Austin, and they start talking. You know, when this happens, you kind of expect Austin to be like, whoa, where'd you come from? Because that's kind of what we were like, right? Like, he's been alone. Like, there was no entrance of the brother. He was just there. So that kind of speaks for itself. Where did Johnny come from? Not Johnny, Lee, whatever. The second stage direction that Dunster used and deviated from the script a bit from is in the last scene, the very last scene. This kind of heightens or clarifies, depending on how you look at it, the ambiguity between Austin and Lee's entangled identities. Now, the play ends with Austin basically killing Lee, but he doesn't. He thinks he killed him, but then Lee jumps back up and Lee chases him to this desert part of the stage. In Sam Shepard's script, they face each other and the lights go out, and that's it. Dunster's adaptation, they're circling each other as they are facing each other, and they're kind of like, you know, just, it's intense, anticipation is building, like, what's gonna happen. And behind them, as they're circling each other, is this really bright, warm light, this horizontal light. The lights start to dim, and as the lights start to dim, this light stays on behind them, so it accentuates their silhouettes. And as they're circling each other, they're getting closer and closer to each other. And then finally, as the backlight dims and starts to turn off quickly, they're circling each other and they get so close, and then they slowly kind of merge into one silhouette. And then the lights go off. So, the merging of the silhouettes into one, it wasn't until then that the light bulb went off, and I'm like, they're the same person. And then the other people I was with was like, no, they're not. That doesn't make sense. And this. I'm like, but they are. Like, all that can be explained. There's two other characters in the play that kind of make this complicated, this theory of them being the same person. But it really isn't that complicated. You can explain it. The producer is a figment of Austin's imagination, triggered by Hollywood, the maddening of Hollywood, and the stress of pursuing happiness. So the producer kind of represents this pursuit of happiness. And then the mother comes, and I don't think that's a figment of Austin's imagination. That is his wife. He talks about his wife the whole play. I just think it's his wife, and it makes sense. Overall, I love the play. It was so well done. The acting was phenomenal. It was hilarious. It really did a good job of building up the tension and just completely releasing it in like the weirdest way. And if the aim was to leave the audience wondering what just happened, then they accomplished their goal. And it was especially entertaining to see Jon Snow with a geeky southern accent. Took a few minutes to get used to. It was so weird. Anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed my review. If you want to support me, you can go to my Patreon page. That just launched. You can do $5 a month, and it'll just help me with my YouTube and writing and everything I'm working on that you can check out. So I'll just put the link below. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, you know. Okay, cheers.